You find the perfect dom girl. She's getting you all excited by telling you about all the places she's gonna step on, and you blurt it out and say, "I'm willing to move across the country for you. I'll do anything for you. I will do literally anything for you, my mistress." And then she asks to sound you. Oh, well, you said you'd do anything for her, so now you gotta go ahead with it. My name's Louis Angel. I run a self-improvement channel, mainly geared towards submissive men, feminine men, emotional men, femboys, and anyone who doesn't fit that category is welcome. Let's get into it. So, in your fantasies as a submissive man with a dominant woman, you probably imagine, doing anything for her. Like you want to say it, we all want to say it, saying, "I will do anything for you, mistress." I'm not doing, the cringy, high-pitched voice, but "I will do anything for you, mistress," literally anything. And, you live in California and I live in New York, I will move across the country for you and find a job there. I will drop everything here for you. I'll just move. I'll do anything, whatever you want. And it's like, yeah, that feels good. It feels good in the fantasy, and it definitely feels good to say it. And as someone who has said this to a girl who I had a femdom relationship with, it also feels good to her to hear you say that, especially. But deep down inside, you kind of don't believe it's really not true, and she knows it's also not true deep down inside, and yet it's being said despite the fact that you both know it's not true, and you haven't explicitly said that it's a fantasy. I'll give you my example, for instance. I have a younger brother who is disabled, and I have parents who are, I want to help with the family business. I love my parents. I don't want to move away from them. I want to spend as much time as I can with them, and to just pack up everything and move across the country, it's not doable. I have too many things I have responsibilities holding me back here. Now, if you make a lot of money and you have no responsibilities holding you to the place you live, yeah, fine, go wherever your dominatrix is, go wherever your girlfriend is, whatever. You're lucky, man. Just do whatever. But you probably don't. If you're a normal human being and you have a normal human life, you probably have some unfortunate circumstances or responsibilities that out of necessity tie you to where you are, more or less. And this in and of itself is not so bad, because deep down inside, it's not true, and she knows it's not true, but it gets even worse. It opens up the door for other things, like saying, "I love you" way too early. You're a submissive guy. Everyone, you want to do it. You want to be like, "Oh, I love you, mistress. I love you so much. I love you from the bottom of my heart." Literally 3 weeks after meeting her, maybe even 3 days after meeting her. And it's, you get what I'm saying. We're getting into deeper territory. Saying "I love you" when it's too early, not out of some cringe alpha male thing, "Oh, don't say "I love you" to her until it's no, it's just not appropriate to say "I love you" to someone you haven't, when you've only met them for less than a few months. You know what I mean? The video was going to be this is touching on something I will talk about in another video, which is you probably shouldn't be submissive 24/7. I know that you know this, yeah, obviously I shouldn't be submissive 24/7, but the first time you meet a girl who is extremely dominant, you might want to be submissive 24/7. And even if you don't want it, it's just naturally gonna come out, maybe. I was in the circumstance where I met a girl who was naturally dominant, and I just naturally wanted to submit to her in every sort of minor little way. When we talked, when we had conversation, I'm not even talking sexual things. We didn't meet in person until a year after we met. I mean, literally just the way you talk, always acquiescing to her, always letting her have her way, always showing, worshiping her, literally any little minor thing in minor conversational ways. You're gonna want to do that when, this, especially if you're like me, and you haven't had a girl before, and then the first girl you get is, this dominant girl, oh, forget it, you're not gonna be prepared. So then, and what does this end in? Well, it ends in her leaving you. Because you do this thing where you say things you don't really mean because you're constantly in this subspace. You're living in fantasy as opposed to living in reality, basically. And you stay in fantasy, and you stay in fantasy, and when the relationship starts deteriorating because you've started saying "I love you" when you know you shouldn't, and it leads to doing a whole bunch of other things when you know you shouldn't. It opens the floodgates, and naturally a relationship where you do things like that starts to deteriorate, the trust erodes, and you're still going to be living in fantasy land as that's happening. As that is happening, like, as my relationship with this girl was deteriorating, I was still holding on and visualizing, like, the best case scenario. Like, no, I can win her back and I can marry her, even though she's said multiple times she doesn't want marriage and children. Like, no, I can give her back. I can win her over. I can do it. Still living in fantasy land right up until the very end. And don't think that you are beyond it. So, what are you going to do about it? There's many things that you could do about it, but the one thing if you're on my channel, you're already on self-improvement, so I don't need to tell you to get on self-improvement. But the one thing I will tell you is what is one of the rules from the book, The Four Agreements. Now, The Four Agreements is a bit of like it seems like a wishy-washy book. I only read it because someone recommended it to me, otherwise I wouldn't have read it. It is one of those wishy-washy self-improvement books, not gonna lie, but the Four Agreements themselves are actually pretty solid. And so one of them, the one I'm thinking of, was be impeccable with your word. Now, what does that mean? Be impeccable with your word. Impeccable means like not, peccable, from the Latin or Spanish pecado, which means sin. Unsin, like without sin. Speak impeccably. What that means is speak without fault. Obviously, you're going to make mistakes, but okay, sorry. What that means is only say what you mean, and whenever you make a joke, whenever you make a casual remark, whenever you're in, like, you and your friends are talking about politics or religion, whenever you say anything, like, and you may say something really casually or angry, like, think, do I really mean this? And if you don't really mean it, don't say it or take it back or say, like, oh, sorry, what I meant to say was this. And it sort of ties in with the other agreements, which are like, don't make assumptions, and the last one is always try your best. I forgot what the third one is. I always forget what the third one is. But the other one is don't make assumptions, kind of related. It's whenever you assume something, like, oh no, he probably didn't hear me, because, like, no, don't assume. Go and make sure. This happens all the time in my job. Like, I assume a minor thing is probably okay, but then I remember, like, oh no, I shouldn't make any assumptions. So I go and ask the manager, and that changes everything. Manager. Anyways, getting a bit too off topic. Basically, what I mean is be impeccable with your word. Speak only the truth from your very core. Put this into practice. Think about it throughout the day, and this will prepare you for a relationship in the future where you just casually say things without meaning them and don't elaborate. I hope you learned something from this video, and remember, it's not learning if your behavior doesn't change. Peace, brother.